Let's take a look at scoring the observation using the tool for Mrs. Todd's third grade math lesson. Remember, the tool is set up into 5 sections. The first section is general information. The second section gathers student engagement trends during the first 5 minutes of the lesson. The third section gathers data regarding the fidelity observation components. The fourth section is to be used during the last 5 minutes of the lesson to gather student engagement trends. And the fifth section will be the summary section. You can navigate back and forth on the pages using the buttons at the bottom of your page until you get to the summary page. You'll see a red stop sign that will let you know to click the next button at the bottom of the page on the summary section. After you click next, you'll be unable to use the back buttons and not able to go back and make any adjustments on the tool. The first question is to indicate the region of the public school unit for Mrs. Todd. Each region is listed in the drop-down. Next, I need to indicate the district or public school unit, PSU, she teaches in the region. And then finally, the name of the school. Next, I need to type in her name and which courses she has completed. She completed Foundations of Math in 2019. Next, I need to enter my name and email as the observer. Please be sure to check if your email is correct. The next question includes the observation date and time. Remember, when you type these in, you have to type them in using the format conventions. Otherwise, it won't let you move to the next page in the tool nor submit. Mrs. Todd did have a pre-conference date, and this is the first observation this school year. This is not a co-taught lesson, and the lesson is for a third grade general education classroom. The curriculum that's being used for this lesson is a strategy called counting collections. It's not in the list, but I can use the other box and type counting collections in the text box. The next section will be for the first 5 minutes of the lesson, gathering trends about student engagement. There are 20 students in this class during the first 5 minutes of the lesson. And of those 20, all students were working on tasks as they were instructed to do when responding to the teacher during the first 5 minutes. Mrs. Todd used whole class instruction as well as small groups in the first 5 minutes of the lesson. Section 3 includes the fidelity observation components. For each one of the components, I'm going to use this scale of 0 to 3. 0 indicates the skill was not demonstrated when it was expected to be, or there was a missed opportunity. 3 being appropriately implemented. Remember, I should indicate NA if the skill did not apply to this observation. And for this tool, I must select NA for all of the statements that are not applicable. Let's look at the indicators in the section that gathers information about language that attends to precision, is mathematically accurate, and adequately scales to higher level mathematics. Number 1, the lesson activity was designed to have students discuss and persevere through the counting collections group work, so we scored this indicator a 3. Number 2, the language used by the teacher was inconsistent, so this was a missed opportunity to connect base 10 language and would have been more precise, so this indicator received a score of 2. Number 3, The teacher modeled counting by 2 and by 10, but students did most of the mathematical communication, so we scored this indicator a 2. Number 4, the teacher moved to each group asking questions and monitoring the ways they organized and counted items. This was strong, so we scored it a 3. She monitored formatively and recorded notes for each group. And finally, for number 5 in this section, we're unable to determine this from the lesson excerpt, how many students have been chosen for the groups and how they were grouped together. So we indicated NA. Remember, each indicator needs either a score chosen or an A in order to move to the next section. The text box below is where you can make notations about your scoring. This is very important and will be very important for you to have detailed notes in order to determine the strengths and the next steps within your coaching. Now let's look at the section of the tool to gather information about how the lesson makes connections between math concepts, the components of number sense, and previous learning to build understanding. For number 6, there was a missed opportunity to connect to previous learning. So we scored that a 0. Number 7 through number 9 and number 12 were not expected to be observed in this lesson, so we indicated an NA for those particular questions. Number 10, the lesson included modeling, and students were able to represent their work with displays, and the lesson included modeling with puzzle pieces and thinking aloud. So we scored that a 3. Number 11 was a missed opportunity to connect to base 10 language. And number 13 was also a missed opportunity to make connection to the place value system and counting numbers. So we scored that a 0. Now let's take a look at the section that includes evidence of all three: concrete, representational, and abstract in the lesson, ability for students to access information at all three levels of understanding. Number 14. Multiple ways were mentioned in the lesson opening, and the students used multiple ways to count collections, so we scored that a 3. Number 15. Concrete modeling was explicit, and the students modeled the visual, so we scored that a 2. Number 16. Puzzle pieces and other collections were used to concretely display the math, so we scored that a 3. Number 17. The lesson included modeling to count mentally, but missed an opportunity to tie in the number line concept, so we scored that a 2. Number 18 was not expected to be observed in this lesson, so we indicated NA. And number 19, the lesson used CRA to solve the problem, so we scored that a 3. The next section includes indicating if a concrete manipulative or representational approach was used during the lesson and how they were used. Within this lesson, we indicated that there was a way to represent counting collections using both concrete and representational means, using tallies, puzzle pieces, and cards, as well as recording written data. The fourth section is to be used during the last 5 minutes of the lesson to gather student engagement trends. There were 20 students in the class during the last 5 minutes of the lesson, and of those 20, all 20 students were working on tasks as they were instructed to do, responding to the teacher during the last 5 minutes. Mrs. Todd uses whole class instruction for all students in the last 5 minutes, as well as small group instruction for the last 5 minutes. Section 5 is the summary page. Remember to use the formatting conventions to enter the time the observation ended. And now we'll need to make some determinations about strengths and next steps. Remember, you can click back at the bottom of the page to gather your thoughts about areas of strength and next steps based on your observation notes for each indicator. Now that I've reviewed our notes, I can begin to note the strengths in the text box. Areas of strength for this lesson may include student activity promoted extended discussion and perseverance, use of concrete lesson design to begin to build understanding of number sense. Academic monitoring included formative assessment for each group's work, and the teacher questions promoted deeper thinking. The lesson included modeling that was explicit and clear, as well as I do and we do components. Based on our observation, we can note the next steps in the space below. Areas for possible next steps could include the following notes. The lesson missed the opportunity to connect counting collections to the number line. This has been observed in all 3 third grade lessons, including counting collections. The next step will be to provide third grade math PLC with a peer video example of a lesson that includes connection of counting collections to the number line. Then a PLC discuss the video and how they may make connections to the number line with the next lesson. Now you see the red stop sign to remind us if we click the next button, we'll not be able to go back into the fidelity observation sections to make any adjustments at this point. When we're ready to click next and begin to submit the observation tool for this lesson, click next. Once you submit, you'll be given a summary of your responses. We highly recommend you download and save at that time. You see at the bottom of the form this average fidelity score based on the responses you provided. Remember, you can't adjust them at this point. You can only move forward and hit submit. You may use this form to assist you during your post-observation conference and subsequent coaching. For this particular lesson, we had an average fidelity score of 2. Now I'm ready to submit the observation. And I'm able to download the PDF now. Be sure to do that before you leave this page. Thanks for watching.